Can a quarterback with 2 college starts on his resume be the best quarterback in college football in 2025? This is QB Unfiltered, my take. Arch Manning is about to announce his presence with authority.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up.
Okay, the hype surrounding Arch Manning is real, and he is gearing up to establish himself as the top dog at the quarterback position in 2025 college football. Manning is the 6'4", 225, 230-pound redshirt sophomore for the University of Texas Longhorns. And everybody knows that Arch is going to be big time this year, but I really think that he's going to be big time. And it's going to be immediate. He's going to hit the ground running. It's going to be fast. And the scary thing about Arch Manning is this. Week by week this coming season, he's going to get better and better game by game. And that has got to scare the hell out of defensive coordinators. Okay, before we jump into today's show, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. I greatly appreciate the support. Now I'm going to do a follow-up video on Arch Manning where I go into his physical skills and mechanics that set him apart from a lot of other quarterbacks. But today, in this show, I'm just going to expand on the reasons why I think he's going to light it up for the Horns this season, and it's going to be immediate. So the talking points for today's show are this. Number 1, natural talent / he's been coached up. Number 2, Steve Sarkisian. Number 3, no transfer portal. Number 4, great advisory group. And number 5, he's followed the plan and waited his turn. Okay, let's start with number 1, natural talent, and he's been coached up. Arch Manning has got the perfect size for a quarterback, whether it's college or NFL. If you were to go into a lab and construct the perfect QB height and weight, 6'4", 225, 230, around that area, that's the sweet spot for any quarterback. Now, it was obvious to me when I watched Arch Manning in his first Texas spring ball practice, his true freshman year, that he was going to be something special. Okay, so as far as being coached up, I don't know whether this is private QB trainers. I don't know if this is his uncles, Archie and Eli, but Arch Manning has been coached up in his career, okay, coming into Texas. The things that he does throwing the football mechanically are almost perfect, from his drop, his feet with his drop, his weight distribution, his balance, his platform, his ball carriage, pushing the ball up and getting it out of his hand. He's got a quick release. We know about the arm talent. He's accurate. He can do it all. And mechanically, he doesn't have any bad habits. And that's what you look for. That's what I look for with young quarterbacks that are coming into college. Are they bringing physical bad habits with them? And, judging on his first spring practice with Texas, I didn't see any of those. And that's a great foundation for Sarkisian to build on while Arch is at Texas. The thing I really like about him, watching him in spring ball as a freshman and watching him in spring ball that just concluded for Texas, is when he throws the ball, he's consistent. He looks the same every time. And that's huge for quarterbacks because consistency with the throwing mechanics equal accuracy. And a lot of quarterbacks get into trouble because they look different every time they throw the ball. It could be weight distribution, balance, throw the ball and fall off to the side at times, not stride with that front foot and transfer the weight. So they're keeping their weight back and throwing it off the back foot. They're patting the ball at times, which causes it to come out late. They're dropping it down at their waist and having to push it all the way back up to get the ball out. You don't see any of that with him. So when you're watching Arch throw like routes on air, right? And a couple of these clips I was watching, he was throwing outside verticals, and every single throw looked the same, from drop to release to follow through to finish. And that's the mark of a well-coached quarterback, because that is coached behavior. But I think what's going to set him apart at the end of the day is his poise in the pocket. You know, he does not get rattled in there. So you watch a lot of young quarterbacks, and when they take their drop, if they're not able to hit that last step, stride, and throw, they start to get nervous, happy feet. And, you know, they start shuffling and chopping their feet. And when that happens, a lot of times the eyes come down to the rush. And when that happens, the rhythm and the tempo of the passing game is destroyed. And as soon as the quarterback gets happy feet and brings his eyes down to the rush, it turns into, how can I escape and get the hell out of the pocket and try to make something happen on the run? Arch stays in the pocket and delivers the ball. You're going to see clips with defensive guys barreling down on him. He knows he's going to get lit up. He stands in there, delivers the ball, and takes a pop. And at the end of the day, that's one of the quarterback's big jobs. Throw the ball, take a hit. That's what he gets paid the big bucks for. And Arch does a hell of a job standing in the pocket with poise. Now, when he does pull the ball down and run, he can hurt defenses. You know, he's athletic and he's got some wiggle and shake when he gets out in the open field. He can pick them up and put them down. Okay, number 2, Steve Sarkisian. So Arch Manning, coming out of high school, he's the number 1 rated recruit, you know, the best quarterback in the country in high school, and everybody in the nation in college was after him. Why did he end up in Austin, Texas? I think the biggest reason that he's at the University of Texas is head coach Steve Sarkisian. You know, Sark is a former quarterback, and he was a damn good quarterback in college, first at El Camino College, junior college in Los Angeles, and then at BYU. And it's my opinion that the best quarterback coaches at any level of football are former QBs. The quarterback position is such a unique position to coach, and there are so many factors that go into the position, and not just physical factors. I think one of the things that really screws up quarterbacks is they're not coached properly mentally. And I'm not specifically talking about X's and O's, but I'm talking about the psychology of playing the position. Guys that have played quarterback understand how to handle quarterbacks when they coach them. They know what is in these kids' heads. They know what they go through on the field. They know what is expected of them, and they know how to handle them realistically. Okay. And Sarkisian's one of the best at tutoring QBs. And I think that that's probably the biggest reason why Arch ended up at Texas. And then the other thing with Sarkisian is he runs a QB-friendly offense. And, you know, that's huge for any quarterback. And he highlights the quarterback, and in particularly the passing game. And Sarkisian is really smart with the passing game. I mean, he knows how to hurt defenses based on what they're doing against him. And I think that this was all taken into consideration when Arch was coming out of high school and where he was going to sign. And Steve Sarkisian is at the top of the list at why he's playing for the Horns. All right, number 3, no transfer portal. You know, I've got a bad attitude about the transfer portal. I think that the portal has really stunted a lot of development of quarterbacks across the country for the last 5-6 years. And it's getting worse, right? So it's bouncing from team to team to team. And every time that these quarterbacks transfer to another school, they're playing for a different QB coach. And, you know, I've said this before, and I'm going to say it right now, just because a quarterback coach is a Division I coach doesn't mean that he's a great quarterback coach. And so a lot of these players, when they transfer, are chasing the NIL money. And there is not a lot of regard or thought process as to what kind of offense or coaching am I going to get when I transfer. And so with Arch Manning and not jumping in the portal, which, I did a show on him 2 years ago where I said he was the smartest quarterback in college football because he was not going to jump in the portal, and he won't jump in the portal. And my reasoning for that was Sarkisian, right? And so Arch Manning now has been in Texas for 2.5 years, being coached up by Sark, the same quarterback coach, running the same offense, running the same drills, working on the same stuff, getting better every single day he steps on the practice field or jumps into a game environment. And this is really going to be one of the big factors in why I think he's going to light it up this year. And I also think that Arch Manning is going to stay in Austin, Texas for his entire natural eligibility arc, meaning 5 years, that he's going to run the table with the eligibility and he's not going to leave early and jump into the NFL. That's just my opinion. And I think that he and his advisory staff understand that he's in a great situation where he is, and they're going to let the natural process work itself out, staying in Austin, Texas, and going through practice and going through position meetings and learning from Sarkisian and having one voice in his ear for 4 or 5 years, however long he stays in Austin, Texas, is so beneficial to him at the end of the day. So, that's another reason why I think he's going to take off and be the top dog in college football. No transfer portal for Arch Manning. Okay, number 4, his advisory group. Every college quarterback now in this era has an advisory group, which is usually made up of family members. And these advisory groups are basically guiding the quarterback through his college career. And, you got a lot of bullshit you got to deal with. NIL, transfer portal, all this stuff, right? There is no advisory group in college football that matches Arch Manning's. I mean, you start with his dad, Cooper, you go to his 2 uncles, Eli and Peyton, and you go to his grandpa, Archie. When those guys gather for the Manning barbecue on the 4th of July, and they're sitting on the back porch talking football, Arch Manning is getting some first-class advice from his family. Arch is a byproduct of his advisory group, and those guys alone, with the knowledge that they've given Arch, puts him above every other quarterback in the country. Okay, so simply put, the Mannings get it. Right? They get it. Now, they have had a plan for Arch from the time he was in high school, and that plan takes him through college and into the NFL. They've got it all mapped out. Those guys get it. Okay, which leads me to number 5. He followed the plan and waited his turn. Simply put, the biggest difference in a quarterback's maturation, ability, and performance isn't between year 1 and year 2 in college. It's between year 2 and year 3, which is exactly where Arch Manning is right now. Okay, now, when I was the head coach at Santa Rosa Junior College in California from 1996 through 2012, we had the top passing offense in the country just about every year. And in those 17 years, I had only 2 quarterbacks that were 2-year starters for me. So all the other guys that led the country in passing and broke records and did this, that, and the other, they were all 1-year starters. And this is the formula that we followed. The first year they came in, they gray shirted, okay, part-time student. The second year, they turned their clock on and they were the backup quarterback. Now, here's where I think the huge benefit comes in, and the biggest difference between year 2 and year 3 is now when they're a backup, they start getting game reps. There is nothing that replicates game reps. The difference between practice reps, full speed, 11 on 11 versus your defense, and game reps is night and day. It's night and day. And so Arch Manning in 2024, this past season, unfortunately for Quinn Ewers going down with that oblique injury, that was a big break for Arch Manning in the fact that he came in, was able to start 2 games for the Horns, right? And he got a bunch of experience this year, which is going to help him tremendously as he begins the 2025 season. I think, however, that the game that is going to help Arch out the most for the rest of his career at Texas was the 2-series stint he had against the Georgia Bulldogs in October. Lining up against University of Texas at San Antonio is one thing. But lining up against Georgia's defense, shit, those guys, not only were they nasty on defense, but their speed was off the charts. Okay. And Arch Manning learned a ton in that game. And it was a situation where he wasn't coming in at the end of a game with them, leading, and he was just going to come in and run the clock out, right? Take a knee, hand the ball off. He came in the middle of the game and ran Texas's offense against Georgia's defense. What an education that was. And that 2-series experience against the Bulldogs is going to be instrumental in Arch Manning's performance this year. It's the experience that a quarterback gets in year 2, which makes year 3 the breakout year for any quarterback. It happened for all of my guys in the 17 years at the junior college level. Arch Manning is following that exact plan. Redshirt backup start, right? Redshirt backup start. So he's ready to roll. I'm sure that was the plan, going in for Arch with his advisory group. He knew that he was coming in and playing behind Quinn Ewers. He knew he was going to shirt his first year. He knew that his second year, he was going to compete with Quinn for the starting job. But if he didn't win it, right, because of experience and this, that, and the other, that he was going to come in and play snaps during the season and be ready to go if anything happened to Quinn, which it did. So, year 2 is the magical year, which puts him in position now to hit the ground running in year 3. And what we're going to see with Arch Manning, that's going to be different in 2025 than 2024, in my opinion. Confidence, reaction, and anticipation in the passing game. The one thing that jumped out at me watching all of the clips on Arch Manning in 2024 was there were a lot of times where the ball came out of his hand late, right? He'd take his drop and flat foot it. And it was just a reaction, anticipation thing, but I also think it was a little confidence thrown in there, which caused him to get the ball out late. And what happened was he missed the grass and the space with his receiver. So 2 things happened when he did this. The first one was his receivers would catch the ball and get tackled right now. The second one that happened is the ball would get knocked down by a DB or a linebacker. And when you watch the route concept and you watch Arch drop in the pocket, the receiver that he ends up throwing to is open at the top of his stem, and that ball should have been out of Arch's hand, but he pauses and he holds it for just a tick too long. You're not going to see him do that in 2025. That's the big learning curve right there. Okay, so entering this 2025 season, you've got a number of quarterbacks that are getting the attention and the love, and rightfully so. Arch Manning is in the conversation. I think you're going to see him hit the ground running. As I said, it's going to be immediate right out of the gates. And I think when the dust settles on this season, Arch is going to be the top dog at the quarterback position in college football. So I look forward to doing a lot of games of Arch Manning's this year, reaction and analyzing his performances. Also be on the lookout for my next video on Arch, where I talk about his actual physical skills and mechanics in throwing the football. This is QB Unfiltered. And remember, always throw the ball short to guys who can score. See ya.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.